Over 40% of all jobs created back in 2012 were from new Michigan opportunities. How can everyone continue to have a role in turning our state around? Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers, coming to you from the 2014 West Michigan Policy Forum, taped at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel in downtown Grand Rapids. Joining me now is the chairman of Haworth Incorporated and the co-chair of the West Michigan Policy Forum, Matthew Haworth. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be here with you today, Laurel.
So Michigan has been making, I would say, some fairly significant progress. We've been in the doldrums for a long time, things on the uptick, if you will. But over the next day or so, the folks in West Michigan will be discussing what we can do to keep that momentum going.
I think you're right, Laurel. You know, we've eliminated over 1,200 burdensome regulations in the past 36 months, more than one every working day of the legislature. We've eliminated $1.5 billion in debt from our state. We're putting in budgets on time that we can plan for into the future, but there's a lot of work to do. We've moved up the rankings in terms of a state that can be intriguing and interesting for a company to come start new jobs in or start a factory. But there's so much more we can do, and that's really the purpose of the forum today, is to discuss those kind of topics and really begin to tackle them.
The three big topics that you're focusing on at this year's forum is talent, transportation, and term limits. Is there one that you think is going to get a lot more attention than the other two?
I don't. I think, you know, those topics came from canvassing West Michigan citizens and business leaders from Traverse City to Kalamazoo, and I think good governance is probably, you know, the more intriguing or less expected topic, in that it relates to term limits and should we modify them. And I think that's something that other groups wouldn't feel comfortable bringing up. But our business leaders here on this side of the state said we should at least dialogue about it.
Certainly the one that has been getting the most media attention lately is the transportation issue. How important is that, or to turning Michigan around in general?
I think it's paramount. Not only does it affect every individual every day when they ride in the roads and they can literally feel the potholes and takes a toll on their budget relative to the cars, but really for our business community, it's critical to go beyond the potholes and to get into infrastructure in general. And so I think that's key.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people, obviously for all of us and for folks who are not intimately involved in the business world, don't understand the economic impact, the dollars lost when folks don't want to transport goods, materials, that type of thing on our roads.
Yeah, I think we need to build upon the annual budget process that's been greatly improved in terms of being timely and within budget, and we need to apply that same thinking to transportation and have a multi-generational plan for the next decade or two. And it does need to go beyond roads. That's a start. It's a critical start. But Michigan is the #1 hub and transport alley between Canada and the U.S. And that is our #1 partner in terms of trade as a nation. And so when we get into intermodal, when we get into light rail, and as well as trucking and airlines, that's really key for us to tackle.
And very quickly, talent, obviously that's a broad topic. Anything in particular that you're nailing down this week?
I think we're going to talk a lot about education as it relates to talent, to prepping people, to harnessing our good educational system. You know, our organization has multiple plants and locations throughout Michigan. And right now in the fourth quarter of 2014, we need to hire, just at our factory level, at least 100 people in Ludington, Big Rapids, Kentwood, and our Holland facility. For every hire, we need to typically start out with at least 10 candidates. So we need over 1,000 candidates just to get there. And at 7.1% employment, we need to align the people and our company's needs.
Sounds like a good problem to have, but maybe not. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My privilege. Thank you.
Today's Comcast Newsmaker was Matthew Haworth, the chairman of Haworth Incorporated and the co-chair of the West Michigan Policy Forum.